This was a great game, and especially right down the stretch. See, what do you think the key was to this one?
Well, one of the keys was I was a little disappointed in Romeo Crennel. He's talking about a 72-year-old defensive coordinator of the Texans, that he didn't have some type of pressure, realizing down and distance, once Drew Brees gets the ball, you can't sit back in the zone. You know they have one timeout, so I understand why initially. But at some point, you have to either try to put some pressure on him or some change of pace. Because basically, if you get across the 50, I didn't know their kicker could kick one from 58, but now the whole NFL knows. But I thought they could have been more aggressive. You have that big drive by Deshaun, and you get the lead. And then you come back and allow Drew Brees just to dink and dunk, work his way up the field to put him in field goal position. So Romeo Crennel, at 72, he's the oldest coach in the NFL as far as a defensive coordinator or a head coach. Like, you should have come up with something to be able to secure that win.
Because Drew Brees was perfect in those final 37 seconds. 37 seconds, one timeout, understanding he needed a minimum of 35 yards. Will Lutz's career long was a 57-yarder, so let's call it 58. He's got to get 35 yards. He goes one play, 15-yard spike. Another play, 11-yard spike. The play we showed you, timeout, 9-yard spike. 9 plus 11 plus 15. Oh, that's 35 yards.
Executed beautifully.
You got exactly where your minimum threshold was for a plot. Now, that field goal looks like it might have been good for 63, but they knew what his limit was in pregame. They knew what his career long was, and he got them there. And the finish of the game was wild for Brees to have the wherewithal after it looked like they had won the game at the 2-minute warning on 3rd and 2. 3rd and 2, backed up on their own end. Brees throws his longest pass of the night, 44 yards out to midfield. Now you just need 2 first downs and you win the game. They only got 1 first down, kick a field goal. Deshaun then did what we showed you. But for the Saints, I want people to understand how important this win was. 0-2, 0-3, 0-3, 0-2, 0-1. That's the last 5 years how the Saints have started their seasons.
Yes.
They have not won a Week 1 game since 2013. Even the last 2 years when they were really good. How did they start out 2 years ago? Losing 2 games in a row. They lost at Minnesota to start the season. Lost the following week. Last year, a home game to Tampa. Fitzmagic dropped 48 on them. The years they were 7-9, they started out poorly. So for them to steal this win twice, once being down 11 midway through the 3rd, and then again at the end when Deshaun seemingly had stolen the game from them with a great 2-play quick strike drive. This is a great win for New Orleans, and maybe something that will start to salve the wound a bit of how last season ended for them, which was as devastating a loss as any team can suffer.
You made such an interesting point yesterday about Tom Brady and how we sort of take it for granted that he put up 341 yards at age 42. But look what Drew Brees is doing at age 40. That last drive was absolutely spectacular. He doesn't look like he's, kind of fainted off in any way, shape, or form. How much can you say about Drew Brees?
Well, I think that we need to recalibrate the quarterbacks. Nick went through a fairly good explanation as far as Tom Brady, no one since George Blanda. But if we don't adjust what we're looking at, the game is easier. The rules are all set up for the quarterback. And these guys are taking care of themselves. They realize they can play as long as they want to be able to play. And that's the reason why we have the quality of the quarterback, because we got 5 of them, say, above 35 or so. So having those types of minds playing the game, it ups the quality. Because even though Drew Brees didn't play a whole lot during the preseason, him or Deshaun, you could see these guys were, in some parts of their game, in midseason form. Drew Brees is amazing. And last year, Nick talked about, well, was it the old age, him hitting the wall? I don't think it was old age, because as you go through the season, as teams start to figure you out, we didn't even take into consideration he only had Michael Thomas to throw to. Teddy Ginn was hurt. The other guy was a rookie. So all they had to do was key on Michael Thomas. So last year, when his numbers started to suffer at the end, it was more because they couldn't get to the number of weapons they could get to in last night's game. So I'm looking forward to seeing Drew Brees not only play this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he played a couple more years.
But I will be honest, watching the first half, I was worried about the analogy I had drawn between Peyton Manning's second to last year and then his final year where he was a shell of himself, where in that second to last year, that final quarter of the season, because in the first half, Drew Brees didn't look like the Drew Brees we had seen last season. He threw a bad red zone interception, took points off the board. Saints only get 3 points.
That wasn't Drew Brees' fault. If you watch the replay, this is the first time he's played a game with Latavius Murray. He signals for him to go out. Latavius Murray is in a scramble rule. Instead of going to the sideline or going to the back of the end zone, he goes back in the field of play.
Okay.
And when he went back into the field of play, Drew Brees threw it, and Merciless was able to get his head around to intercept it. So when you watch the replay, you'll be able to say, oh, man, why Drew Brees? But he's playing with the guy he wasn't familiar with and tried to direct him in a different direction.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you nor the audience. I did not realize that until you just mentioned it there. So I saw 3 points, a red zone interception, a 71 rating. It was nerve-wracking if you're high on the Saints this year. But in the second half, he was perfect. I mean, 80% passing, a 143 rating, 2 touchdowns, no picks. We mentioned those 3. For him to execute that last drive with nobody ever getting out of bounds, they didn't stop the clock by getting guys out of bounds. He knew, okay, I'm going to save my timeout for the kick. I can get guys. I have the system in place to where even if they go down inbounds, we will get to the line. We won't have a formation violation, which is a 10-second runoff, which is a killer in that spot. That was a savvy veteran quarterback, and you continue to see the growth of Alvin Kamara as a receiver. The Saints are still kind of looking for that number 2. Remember, last year they signed Des Bryant. They were so desperate for a number 2. But Michael Thomas picked up where he left off, 10 catches, 123 yards, super high production. And, by the way, I don't know if it was more about the Texans' O-line, which is still seemingly in shambles, or the Saints' D-line, but the Saints got more sacks yesterday than any team in the NFL in Week 1. They got to Deshaun Watson repeatedly. If that pass rush is that aggressive throughout the season, Saints are going to be very tough to beat.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.